Hey guys, it's Andy aka LG aka Eloggy. I'm here once again to record a Magic the Gathering deck video. It is scorching hot, but we keep it moving. Today's deck, as you can see by the title, is Temur Ultimatum. We're in Temur colors trying to ramp into the spell Genesis Ultimatum, which is 7 mana, pretty specific mana pips required, so not the most consistent deck, especially in a format that's as tuned as Pioneer, but it is fun. This is a fun deck. I didn't make this, with the expectation that it would be especially competitive, but it can win games. So I poured this over from Arena because I played with this on a lot on Arena, and I enjoyed it, so I built a deck in paper, and I want to share it with you today. So, the deck has actually gone through many iterations. This is just the newest, and I feel the most competitive I've made so far. My earlier iterations, I was messing around with, like, Arboreal Grazer, and it just didn't quite... there were too many inconsistent patterns that just didn't allow the deck to do what it wanted to do and what it could do, but this kind of alleviates a lot of those issues, and I feel it's better, so we'll get into that once we go over the deck. But before that, let's go over the lands. We got some amount of basics because we'll be searching them up. We have 5 forests, 3 islands, and 2 mountains, so 10 basic lands altogether, which maybe a little much in a deck that has very specific mana pips required to cast its big card. And in fact, to be specific, Genesis Ultimatum requires 3 blue pips, 2 red pips, 2 green pips. We're ramping a lot early game, so we need green, so I have mostly green basics, but I do have the 3 basic islands and the 2 basic mountains that we can tutor to cast Ultimatum, and then the rest basic forests. But to go with basic lands, we have some shock lands, that being Breeding Pool, 3 of them, and 3 Stomping Grounds. Again, relying on green to get the early acceleration going that we need to cast Genesis Ultimatum on time, so we don't, lose the game to aggression or whatever. Green is our most important color, even though we need more blue pips than green ones, but green is a more important color to get down early. So the deck is kind of at odds with itself, which is what I was kind of alluding to earlier, with a lot of inconsistencies. Just fundamentally, you can't really fix that, I don't think, with as much as I've toyed around with this, but I have tuned it enough, so I think to go along with the Shocklands, I also have the Innistrad Slowlands, that being 3 Dreamroot Cascades and 3 Rockfall Vales, untapped if you control at least 2 other lands, so there's no downside. I guess if you draw them early, they enter tapped, but we don't have many strong early game plays, so that's not really a downside at all. And late game, they come into play untapped, they don't shock you, so very, very solid. And to go with that, I have 3 more lands. One being the Temur Triumph, Ketria Triumph, just helps mana fix, but can also cycle if I draw it late game. And I'm also playing Boseiju and Otawara, the chain lands from Kanagama Neon Dynasty. I do not like channeling these. I don't. They're -1 in card economy, both of them. So I don't like channeling them, but sometimes they are necessary. So I just bit the bullet. I'm playing them. Most likely going to just play them as lands, but in the off chance I draw them late game and they actually do something, it's nice to be able to channel them. So 1 of each, and that is it for the lands. That's 25 lands. My earlier iterations, I was playing around with a lot more because I was playing Arboreal Grazer and always wanted 3 lands in play on turn 2, but Grazer was not working out for the deck, so I trimmed it down. We're now at 25, which it feels much better. We're not drawing as many dead lands late game, and it just overall flows nicely. So yeah, I like 25. But to begin, there's no Grazer. Instead, I have 3 copies of Growth Spiral. Green and blue instant that you draw a card and then you can put a land onto the battlefield. It's like Explore, but instant speed and Simic, so that's all that is. Just accelerates you, digs you deeper. Only 3 of though. I couldn't really find more space to add more, but it might be worthwhile to do so. but 3 was where I ended up with, and I like it so far. We have another 2-drop here in Omen of the Sea, enchantment with Flash, and when it enters, you scry 2, then draw a card. Scrying is so important in this deck. One of the original problems I was encountering was my ultimatums felt like they weren't doing anything because I would just draw my targets that I wanted to hit with my ultimatum, and like it was just awkward. I would just hit lands with my Genesis Ultimatums, and I found scrying helped tremendously. And in fact, Omen here, you can pay 3 mana and sack it to scry 2 later also, which is good to do the turn before you ultimatum. Put lands on the bottom or keep something that you want to ultimatum into play second from the top because you're going to draw a card. So might be worth trimming one for a growth spiral. I don't know, but originally I had 4. I kind of split the growth spiral and the Omen of the Sea. So far it's working out, but again, it might be worth swapping one of those for a growth spiral. Anyway, that is it for the 2 mana spells, and now we're really getting started. 4 copies of the best boy, Topiary Stomper, with the greatest artwork. This Triceratops looking thing with the gravestones on its back. Topiary Stomper, good boy. 3 mana, 4/4 vigilance, but can't attack or block until you have 7 lands. And when it enters, you search up a basic. Stomper itself has 2 green pips when it comes down, but it can search up it can search up your islands, which you need 3 of, so good there. Stomper's a very good card. To go along with Topiary Stomper, in the 3-drop slot, I have 4 copies of Fable of the Mirror Breaker, probably a stronger card, well, definitely a stronger card in the general sense. In this deck, I'm not so sure. It does help you dig for what you need. It does potentially ramp you, makes 2 bodies even, so like Fable's a good card. If you can slot Fable in your mid-range deck, it's probably advised to do so. You know, definitely a solid card in the deck. I think Stomper is the stronger play just to accelerate, just to try to hit our ultimatum as soon as possible, but Fable is good too. Potentially better than Stomper, depending on circumstance, but yeah, Fable's just a crazy card. I don't think I need to explain Fable of the Mirror Breaker. Then I have, this is not technically a 3 mana spell, but I'm putting it with Topiary Stomper here in Beanstalk Giant, a 7 mana giant with power and toughness equal to the number of lands you control. So when you cast it, probably going to be a 7/7, but it also has an adventure that you can pay 3 mana for and 2-drop a basic land and put it into play untapped. And it's a good target to hit with Genesis Ultimatum, but there's still more goodies. I'm playing 3 copies of Dreamdew Entrancer as a way to stave off aggro. 4 mana, 3/4 that can tap something down, whether it's an opponent's creature or one of mine. If it's one of mine, I can draw 2 cards. Usually the only creature I'm going to have is like the Trancer itself, which you can do. You can play it, tap itself, and draw 2 cards, but probably not what I want to be doing. I guess I could tap down a Stomper that can't attack or block, but that also seems counterintuitive, but not out of the question. Like, if I need to dig, I'm definitely willing to do that, and I think the deck should do that, so the potential is there. Dreamdew Entrancer is a strong card. It's a newer addition to the deck. This wasn't in my original iterations of the deck because it didn't exist until Bloomburrow last year, but I feel like it's a good addition to the deck. Only 3 copies though, and that is it for the 4 mana cards. Here we have 3 copies of Goldspan Dragon, 5 mana 4/4 flying haste dragon. When it attacks or becomes the target of a spell, it just creates a treasure token. If it sticks around, when you sack a treasure token, you make double the mana that you would. So, Goldspan Dragon, kind of a crazy card. Popped off a little too hard in Standard. Trying to relive the glory days here in this Temur deck. It was in my first iterations of when I was attempting to build Temur Ultimatum, and I ended up taking it out because I felt like it wasn't strong enough to hit off of an ultimatum, but I've changed my mind. That Grazer era, I was so focused on hitting 7 mana, 8 mana permanents, and kind of ignored just generically good mid-range cards like Goldspan Dragon, which I feel like is a mistake because it's a nice glue for the deck because it's a good engine to ramp into your Genesis Ultimatum, and it is a good Genesis Ultimatum hit in its own right, so I feel like it was a mistake to take it out, and I'm glad it's back. To go along with the 3 Goldspan Dragons, we're playing 3 copies of Overlord of the Boiler Bilges, boys. This is a 6 mana 5/5. When it enters or attacks, it deals 4 damage to any target. So that's a crazy win condition all on its own. You can also impend it, which is spending 4 mana and have it enter as an enchantment, so it loses its ability to attack and block for 4 turns. After 4 turns are up, it'll revert to being a creature. That gets online, but you can play it at a discount early game if you really need to deal 4 damage to something. So I like that flexibility. The two red pips can be a little difficult for this deck because we have so much blue and green that we're trying to maximize our potential to hit that we don't always have the 2 red pips available on force. So that is something to keep in mind. Again, just a strong mid-range option in general, and another great target for our ultimatum. So included it as a test, and I'm enjoying its presence. Definitely a fan of the Boiler Builders here. We're almost finished with the deck. Here's our primary target with our ultimatum. 4 copies of Agent of Treachery. Come down, steal anything. Could even be lands, but there's probably going to be much better targets than lands. But either way, like ultimatuming into an agent or 2, it feels pretty good. So that's what we want to be doing. There is more text on Agent of Treachery that can be a bit of a downside. At the beginning of your end step, if you control 3 or more permanents that you don't own, you draw 3 cards, which sounds like just a throwaway line of text. Like, okay, maybe, but probably not, unless you're doing degenerate things with it, which we aren't. But we can, if we happen to have multiple Agent of Treacheries through playing them or ultimatuming them or copying them with our flipped Fatal of the Mirror Breaker, then we start getting more permanents than we might really need, and depending on how many copies of Agent of Treachery we have, we'll be drawing through our deck and might mill ourselves out. So that is also something to keep in mind. Agent, while it is what we're trying to hit off our ultimatum, can come back to haunt us. So just a funny little bit of experience I've had with that. Anyway, the last target that isn't the ultimatum itself is 1 copy of Titan of Industry. 7 mana, 7/7 with Reach Trample. When it enters, you can do a multitude of things, including destroy an artifact or enchantment, gaining 5 life, making a Rhino, 4/4 Rhino token, and putting a shield counter on a creature we control. You can do 2 of those. Very versatile. I mostly have it in there for artifact and enchantment and to gain life, but yeah, any of those options can be applicable, so good card there. And then, of course, 3 copies of the ultimatum itself. I was playing around with 4, but I found it just bricked too much. Like, I would draw too many in a row, and like I would ultimatum, hit another ultimatum, and like 4 lands, and it just felt bad. But 3 is a good number. Usually 1 ultimatum is enough to put you so far ahead that you functionally win the game, so it's good. And at the same time, while we're trying to ramp into our ultimatum, if we don't draw our ultimatum, we're still ramping into our Agent of Treacheries, our Titan of Industries, our Overlords, our Goldspans, so the ramping isn't wasted, even if we don't draw the ultimatum. So that's, I feel like, what kind of glues the deck together. If we can survive the early game onslaught, we're probably going to go over the top of some decks. I mean, like, Nib Delight and stuff can be a little hit or miss, but it can win games. So that is the main deck. I'll just go over the board real quick. I don't actually remember what all is in it, so buckle up. Okay, see, we have a copy of 3 Steps Ahead. This is a counter spell. We can, with Spree, meaning it has a mana value of 1, but you can pay more mana to give it effects. In this case, you can pay an additional 1 and a blue to counter a spell. And you can pay 3 more colorless mana to create a token that's a copy of a target artifact or creature you control, so like an agent. Or you can draw 2 cards and discard a card by paying 2 additional colorless mana. And you can do any of the above, any combination. So good card. Mostly have it in there to counter spells if we're like in a more of a control matchup. And like I said, the copying of our big stuff is having that potential is good too. I have Test of Talents here. It was originally for Thoughtseize. I don't know how I was casting this on Thoughtseize because it just comes down turn 1 and wrecks you, but it's also good versus like Bring to Light or sweepers that aren't named Supreme Verdict. Just a good card. It's having that in the board makes me feel at ease, just knowing I have an answer in the deck that I can just like Silver Bullet, counter your Bring to Light, remove it from your deck. GG. 2 copies of Witness Protection. This is primarily to enchant Shouldered, so I don't lose life from drawing cards, because that's not fun. I have 2 copies of Unlicensed Hearse for Graveyard Disruption. Small little piece of interaction there. I have 2 copies of Pithing Needle for like Planeswalkers or artifacts, just general good card. And then the last cards in here are specifically to deal with control, which is a very, like Azorius control. It's pretty much 0 to 100 matched up in favor of my opponent versus like just Brain Dead Azorius control. There's no shot this is beating that. None of my spells are resolving. We don't have caverns. Nothing is happening. This deck is making no progress versus that. So our sideboard is, I mean, all that's good versus control, but these last 5 cards especially. We have 2 copies of Skylasher, 2 mana, 2/2 flash, can't be countered with reach and protection from blue. So just gotta watch out for the Wandering Emperor, which we're going to be named with Pithing Needle. But that's our game plan for taking down Azorius control. I also have Shifting Ceratops, which is more or less the same thing. 4 mana, 5/4, can't be countered, pro blue. You can pay 1 to give it reach, trample, or haste. So another good option there. Just a good card versus those control matchups. And finally, 2 copies of Hullbreaker Horror, which is, I'm most likely going to swap out 2 Genesis Ultimatums for these, because the Ultimatum is never resolving, and having this just feels much better. So this is effectively what we're ramping into instead of the Ultimatum in that specific matchup, which I feel is worth dedicating this much to combat. So that is the deck overall. I haven't played with it in a long time because I got so burnt out playing Pioneer and Explorer on Arena just because Thoughtseize got to me and I lost my interest in the format. But now I hear nobody's playing Thoughtseize anymore because everybody's dying to aggro, so people don't want to lose the 2 life. And I feel like aggro just dominates this deck the same way Thoughtseize does. So again, probably not especially competitive, but you see the vision, right? You see what we're doing here. Trying to stabilize early game, ramp in the mid game, and then late game bombs. That's the goal anyway. So that's the deck. I hope you enjoyed it. I guess if you want to see me play with this, I can do so on Arena, because all these are actually available on Arena for once. But in the meantime, I'm going to get on out of here and record a couple more deck tech videos. So, hope you're looking forward to those. If you are, be sure to subscribe. Until then, though, thanks for watching, and have a good day, guys.